I worked the overnight shift at a 24-hour gym for 8 months before I noticed. That's the part that haunts me most. Not what I found, but how long it had been happening right above my head while I sat at the front desk scrolling through my phone like an idiot. The gym was part of a chain, nothing special, one of those places that never closes. My shift was 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Most nights I'd see maybe 3 or 4 people come in. Quiet job, or I thought it was. Turns out I was never alone in that building. Not once. The building was old, converted from a warehouse. Drop ceiling throughout, those white acoustic tiles. Above the tiles was a gap of about 2 feet between the ceiling and the actual roof. I knew this because one of the maintenance guys, Ray, had shown me when a tile broke and he had to replace it. He'd lifted the tile and pointed up into the dark space. Said the building used to be a storage facility. Plenty of room up there, he said, laughing. Enough room for a person to crawl around. He was being funny. I wish he hadn't been right about that part. The first sign was the smell. I noticed it around my 3rd month. Faint, like body odor and stale food, drifting from somewhere near the men's locker room. I mentioned it to Ray. He checked the drains, said it was probably the plumbing. The smell would come and go. Some nights nothing, other nights it was strong enough to make me gag. I started keeping air freshener at the desk. Then there were the sounds. Tiny creaks above me, like someone shifting their weight. I told myself it was the building settling, temperature changes, the HVAC cycling. I told myself that every night for 5 months. Things I couldn't explain started adding up. A water bottle I'd left on the desk was moved 3 inches to the left. A granola bar from my bag, half eaten, the other half rewrapped and put back. I thought I was losing it. Then the gym members started mentioning things. A woman said she heard footsteps above her in the yoga studio. A guy said someone had been using the showers after hours, left the water running. I checked the security logs. Nobody had been in the building. The front door records every entry with a key fob scan. Nobody came in. Nobody left. The showers had been used. I started reviewing the security camera footage during my shifts. The cameras covered the gym floor, the entrance, the parking lot. They didn't cover the ceiling. Nobody thinks to point cameras up. But I noticed something else. There was a blind spot in the footage, about 40 minutes every night between roughly 1 and 2 a.m. The cameras weren't off, they were recording, but the angles seemed to shift slightly. Like someone had adjusted them. Barely, just enough to create a gap in coverage. I went back through weeks of footage. The adjustment was consistent. Every single night, same time, same subtle shift. Someone was doing this on purpose. I should have called my manager. I didn't, because I didn't have proof of anything and I didn't want to sound crazy. Instead, I decided to catch them myself. I bought a cheap trail camera, the kind hunters use, motion activated, and placed it in the drop ceiling above the men's locker room where the smell was strongest. I set it to record overnight and pulled the SD card in the morning. The first night, nothing. Second night, nothing. Third night, at 1:14 a.m., the camera caught movement. A hand, pale and thin, reaching down through a gap in the ceiling tiles. It stayed there for 6 minutes, just hanging there, fingers slightly moving, like it was listening. I watched the footage 17 times. It was a person's hand. Human, no question. Long fingers, dirty fingernails, a wrist that was too thin. After 6 minutes, the hand withdrew back up into the ceiling. The camera caught nothing else. But the timestamp showed the camera had been recording for 2 hours before that hand appeared. Something had triggered the motion sensor. I scrolled back. At 11:42 p.m., there was a brief flash of movement at the edge of the frame. A face, looking down through the tiles at the locker room below. The face was partially obscured by the tile edge, but I could see one eye. It was looking directly at the camera. The police checked the roof. The hatch was padlocked from the inside. They cut it. The roof was empty, but on the gravel surface near the edge, they found worn spots where someone had been sitting, looking down at the parking lot, looking down at the entrance. They'd been watching people come and go. The detective who took over said it looked like someone had been living in the ceiling for months, possibly longer. They found a notebook. I didn't get to read all of it, but the detective told me what was in it. Schedules. My schedule. When I arrived, when I took my breaks, when I used the bathroom, how long I was gone from the desk. The notebook also had descriptions. My car, my license plate. A note about which gym members came in alone late at night. Phone numbers the detective couldn't trace back to anyone. And sketches. Pages and pages of sketches of me. Sitting at the desk, walking the floor, looking at my phone. Some of the drawings were from angles that didn't make sense unless the person had been directly above me. One drawing showed me sleeping. I have never slept at the gym. I've never closed my eyes for more than a blink during my shift. But the drawing showed me slumped at the desk, head down, in the exact clothes I'd worn on a specific night. The gym shut down for 2 weeks while they investigated. I was put on paid leave. The detectives said they were trying to identify the person. They ran the prints from the ceiling space. No matches. They checked the notebook for DNA. Nothing usable. The food wrappers were a dead end. Generic brands bought with cash anywhere. The portable charger was untraceable. Whoever this was, they knew how to not be found. The detective told me something that stuck. They said, this person wasn't living in your ceiling because they were homeless. They were living there because of you. They chose that gym. They chose that ceiling. You were the reason they were there. I didn't go back to that gym. I couldn't. The company offered me a transfer to a different location and I declined. I quit. For a while, things were normal. I got a job at a warehouse, day shift, felt safer being around people. 3 months passed. I started to relax. Then one morning I found something on my car windshield. A single sheet of paper, folded once. I opened it. It was a drawing. Me, sleeping in my bed, from an angle that could only be from the window above my headboard. The window that faces the alley. The window I'd checked 100 times because it never felt right. I called the police again. Same detective. He took the drawing, sent it for analysis. The style matched the notebook from the gym. Same hand. Same person. They checked the alley outside my window. There were scuff marks on the wall below the window, like someone had been standing on something to reach the height. They checked for prints, found partials that were too smudged to use. I installed a security camera outside that window. The detective suggested I move. I wanted to, but leases are hard to break. I told myself the camera would be enough. The first night with the camera, it recorded 3 hours of nothing. Then, at 2:47 a.m., it recorded a face. The face was thin, gaunt, with long hair hanging around it. The eyes were open, wide, unblinking. The camera caught it clearly for 11 seconds before the face pulled back into the darkness. I moved out the next day, stayed with my brother across town. I thought distance would help. 2 weeks later, my brother's neighbor mentioned they'd seen someone on the roof of their garage, looking toward our house. I called the detective. He told me they'd identified the person, a man named Elliot Garner, 29, who had been committed to a psychiatric facility 3 years ago after being found living in the ceiling of an office building. He'd been released 8 months before I started at the gym. They never found him. The warrant is still active. I moved twice more after that. I check my ceilings everywhere I go. Every drop tile, every access panel, every attic hatch. I sleep with the lights on. Last month, I was at my new apartment, lying in bed, and I heard it again. That sound I'd ignored for 5 months at the gym. A creak directly above me. I looked up. This apartment doesn't have a drop ceiling. It's solid concrete. But I heard it again last night. And this morning, when I was brushing my teeth, I found a single hair on the bathroom ceiling. Long, dark, taped to the concrete with something sticky.